Hey everybody, my name is Bala Subramanian Meenakshi Sundaram. You can call me Bala. I am doing my master's in EE Electrical Engineering here at K-State. I am close to being done. Hopefully I'll be finishing by August. And I am from India. I'm from a city called Chennai. It's in the southern part of India, in a state called Tamil Nadu. My state gets the name from the language we speak there. It's Tamil or Tamil. When you speak it in English, it's called Tamil. In my native tongue, it's called Tamil. My city is also the state capital, and it's also one of the 4 metropolitan cities of India. So there's one for each corner. There's New Delhi up north, Bombay to the west, Mumbai to the west, Calcutta to the east, or Kolkata to the east, and then Chennai to the south. And we have a lot of industries because Chennai is in the coastal area. There's a lot of open space around the city. So we have, a lot of companies, international companies, multinational companies came over and set up shop there. We have Hyundai, a car manufacturer. We have BMW. We have a couple other big industries there too. Top left is the Chennai High Court building. It's very old. It was built during the British period. Apparently there were a couple of bombs dropped on it during the Second World War. That's what my grandpa told me. I'm not sure of that. The one next is a memorial for one of our most famous chief ministers of the state. He was also an actor. He turned into politics later on. And then the third on top is a very busy shopping street in Chennai. It's called Ranganathan Street. You can get anything on the street, and there's always a lot of people there. If you're going there, prepare to be sweaty and messy. And down below on bottom left is it's called the MRTS, the Mass Rapid Transport System. It's the cheap trains for people to commute from the city suburbs to the central portion where all the offices are located. It is state run, and the next building in the center is the Chennai Central Railway Station. It's one of the primary railway stations. We had trains from that station going to all over India, different parts of India. And then the last picture is a temple called Kapalishwara Temple. It's a really famous temple in Chennai. It's in an area called Mylapore. Just like the neighborhood. Okay, I'm going to read the stats off the slides because I don't know them by heart. The population of India as of 2009 was a little over 1 billion, 1.1 billion. And the Chennai has a stable population of 4.34 million people, but since it's a industrial hub, people come in and go out, and the population kind of expands and contracts, and it goes up to 6.5 million. Just to bring out a comparison, the population of Chicago is 2.7 million. That is a map of India. I probably should have put it one slide up, which I think of now. But as you can see, down at the bottom there on the Bay of Bengal, there's a writing called Pondicherry, and just above that is where Chennai is located. How did I get here? That is an interesting story. I did not plan on coming here. I was working after I finished my undergrad. I was working for a software company back in India, but things got very boring and monotonous there, and I didn't like it, and I wanted to get out, and I didn't know what to do, and I just thought I'll go to a master's, and that's how I ended up coming to the US to do my master's. Very developed. Some of the things that startled me when I came here were like the price differences and stuff. For example, cell phones are very cheap in India. You can have a really high-end phone with all the data plans and facilities, free texting and all that for less than $5 or $10. But here I'm paying like $110 a month for my phone, which is kind of expensive, but I just don't convert anymore, so I'm good. And there's another thing that you'll see is that since Indian society is so very spread out, like in terms of monetary facilities for the people, they're really poor people, they're rich people, they're middle class, a lot of them are middle class. Every industry in India will, in order to survive, have to take into consideration all the different strata of the society. So what they do is they have like really cheap phones, and they also have the really expensive phones, and they have the mid-range phones. So ultimately what that ends up doing is putting a phone in pretty much every single person's hand. Actually, once we usually give out the paper, and we weigh the paper and newspaper that we accumulate over the month or two, and we get money for that, and there's this one guy who comes and picks it up. He has a cell phone. So that's how much technology has reached out to the common man in India, I guess, because people like him, and maybe even me, are the common people of India, not the rich ones. They're sparse and few, especially considering that we have such a high population. They'll be a very, very small minority. So that's the story about the cell phones. I have like a couple of pictures here. They're like, on the left you see two daily laborers who do like whatever chores you want them to do, sitting on a bullock cart, I think, and they're using their phone. And to the right there's a priest sitting at a temple using his phone. In my city, since it is a huge city, I've come across a lot of newspapers. In my language we had like 2 or 3 very big newspapers, and in English we had similarly 3 or 4, and we have separate economic times for economy news and stuff like that. And people were all, I mean, the media was always competing, which was kind of bad and kind of good also, because the media tries to rush into a story, and sometimes they don't bring the story in the right light, or they don't bother delving deep enough to find the actual truth, or they might be misled by some misleaded informant who gives misleaded information, and this whole story goes bad. But then that's how competitive the media is over there. And we also have a lot of TV channels, which is pretty much the same as it is here. But again, what makes it a lot of TV channels is because we have the nationalized TV channels that go in either in Hindi or English, and we have all this bunch of local TV channels that tender to the specific states. So each news network or even a TV network will have different channels for all the different states they cover. So that's why we end up having a lot of TV channels. And media is probably one of the most competitive industries in India, because there are so many people that they can influence, and there are also so many other people that they have to compete with in order to stand a chance in doing whatever they're doing, like printing a newspaper or running a TV channel. So, and also advertisements are how any newspaper will earn their money. So that is again a big part of the newspaper industry, and also the TV industry. We have a lot of commercials. Some of them are really funny, they're really good, and the creativity behind the advertisement itself is baffling to me, that people can think of this stuff too, bring out the importance of something totally different. It's really good. And we also have this concept of matrimony ads. I've never seen that in the US, but it's very common in India. I remember my dad going over the newspaper and marking off guys that seemed to be perfect or an ideal match, or close to ideal match for my sister when he was trying to get her married. Yes, she had an arranged marriage. So the matrimony ads, I would say, would contribute to maybe 30% of all the marriages that happen, because most of the marriages that happen are word of mouth. Somebody in your family knows some other people who might have a kid who is ready for marriage, and this person here might have a girl or guy who can be matched with that person. That's how it usually works. But then since there's also this concept of horoscope matching, not everybody will be an ideal match. So that is when you go into newspapers where the ad posted by a person will say specific constraints of his horoscope, if there are any, and or whatever they're looking for in a girl, and what they can offer the girl in return, or for the girl what they can offer the guy in return, and what their constraints are, etc. So that's how that goes. And we also have an obituary column. Some of them are big, some of them are small. It's basically how it is here. what the person can afford to put up on the newspaper. So if it is a big shot that's dead, they'll have like a whole page obituary, but usually not. It'll just be a tiny little note on the paper. And then we go to movies. I love movies basically. I grew up watching a lot of my language movies, which is Tamil movies, and after I was old enough to go to the movies myself, I watched a lot of English movies, and before that I used to just watch them on TV, Star Movies, HBO. My dad encouraged me to watch English movies. Maybe he thought my English would get better, or maybe he just didn't care. I don't know. And the movie industry in India per se is split up. It is not one big industry like it is here. Like, there's not one Hollywood for India. There's not one one single industry. That is again because of the language differences. So each language or each state will have its own version of Hollywood or Bollywood, for example. Bollywood obviously is the biggest of all the Indian movie industries because it makes movies in Hindi, which is spoken all over the country, so they have a lot more reach, and also they have a lot more people who can pull in their talents into, like, anybody in North India or even South India, as long as they can speak the language, they can go and work there in that industry. But in our case, it's a lot harder. For example, in the Tamil film industry, it's a lot harder because you have to know the language in order to act in a regional movie, and there are other such constraints, like you have to get along, and there's this transition from one industry to the other, which is usually considered to be bad as long as you don't end up with a good working team to launch you off in your first movie. Some people are good, some people are bad, some people are, they have this regionalistic feelings and stuff, so there's a lot of politics going on everywhere in the world, so movie industry is no exception. So Bollywood is the biggest movie industry, and then my state, it's called the Kollywood because it's called Kollywood because the central hub of the movie industry for my state is located in my city, in Chennai, in a region, in an area called Kodambakkam, and hence the Kollywood. And then there's one for the Telugu language film industry, it's called Tollywood. So these two are the major movie industries of South India. Kollywood and Tollywood, they make really good movies. They make like big budget movies, which is a very big thing because not every state or not every film industry can afford to make expensive movies. We recently, or I mean, I shouldn't say we, the Tamil film industry recently made a movie which was the most expensive movie ever made by an Indian movie company. They spent like 160 crore rupees. It's like a little over 10 million, I guess. I don't really know the conversion. I'm not able to do the math right now, but yeah. That movie had people from Hollywood working with people from the Tamil film industry. We had the team that did the graphics for The Matrix do the graphics for that movie, and we had the person that Yuan Wu Ping. He's a great stunt choreographer from the Far East. He's also a movie director. He did the stunt sequences for the movie, action sequences, and so it was all over a very big budget movie, and it brought together a lot of people from all over the world, in fact. So as you can, I pointed that out to say, or to show that the movie industry in India is really progressing a lot and getting more globalized by the day. So and Indian movie technicians have a name for themselves in the world because they're considered to be fairly talented, or really talented in some cases. For example, you all might know about A.R. Rahman. He is from Chennai. He's from my city. He speaks my language. I'm very proud of that fact. He won the double Oscars last year, and I think he is a very good, soulful composer. He's a really good person also. He does a lot of philanthropy work. These are some really big movie stars from India. Top left is Amitabh Bachchan. He is probably the most famous man in the movie circuit in India. He's been acting for over 40-50 years now. And top center is A.R. Rahman, and top right is Rajinikanth. He is a Tamil star. He was the lead guy in the movie which I was just talking about. It's called Yandiran. It was a collaboration of a lot of different people from all over the world. the most expensive movie. And then bottom left is Kamal Hassan. He is also a contemporary of Rajinikanth. He is also from the Tamil film industry originally, but they have both acted in most of the other film industries also in India, like Bollywood, Tollywood. They've acted in Telugu movies, Hindi movies, Bengali movies. Bengali movies are really good because they're not commercial, but they always carry a message. And everybody might know Satyajit Ray. He was a Bengali movie director, and I think he was also nominated for the Oscars maybe twice, because his movies are really good and deep, and they have a lot of philosophical meaning to them. So that's what the Bengali movie industry is famous for, and also the Kerala movie industry, which is the Malayalam movie industry. Malayalam is the language they speak. These people also make really inexpensive movies, but they carry a lot of message. They bring out a lot of different story ideas, and they can strike a chord with the common man with his day-to-day problems and stuff like that. And bottom right is Aishwarya Rai. Most of you might or might not know her. She is probably the most famous actress, contemporary actress in Indian cinema. She won the Miss World pageant sometime in the 90s. Now is into some serious stuff. Misrepresentation of Indian society or the Indian people. I've seen that a lot here. Sometimes it's depressing, sometimes it's angering, sometimes it's just downright sad. But I mean, people have to understand that no country is perfect, and so is India. I mean, we all have problems. We all have different problems in different levels and in different intensities. That's all the difference is, that we cannot say that we don't have problems. So contrast that I saw when I came to the US from India, there were many of them. I recently wrote an article about it on the Collegian too. Driving was the first thing I noticed, because I got out of the airport, I got into a Roadrunner, which is really bad and they are so expensive. But yeah, I got into the Roadrunner and I noticed that they drive on the right hand side of the road. Yes, I was not new to this because I've seen a lot of English movies, Hollywood movies and stuff. But to be personally experiencing it was kind of weird to me, because every time I looked out the window, I would get the feeling that the driver was driving on the wrong side of the road. So it was kind of funny, but then I got used to it, and then I started driving like 2 months after I came to the US. So it took some practice. I had to drive around a little bit before I got my license, but it was okay. One of the major things I noticed here is that people take responsibility for their actions. Starting from a kid to the president of the university or even the country, they take responsibility for their actions, which is, I think, something that is strongly instilled in the children by their parents as they grow up. So it makes them, face stuff, whatever they do, face the consequences of their actions, either good or bad. So I think I like that aspect about American society a lot. The government is different. Here it is a two-party democracy, but in India it's a multi-party democracy. And we have a lot of political parties, which means a lot of promises and a lot of faces, and sometimes you have a hard time trusting the person or even identifying the person who is on TV talking to you, saying he'll give you this and he'll give you that if he comes to power. Also, mixing of the genders is more profound here. People are more casual when they talk to girls, or girls when they talk to guys. I saw that. It took me a whole of 15 years of my life to start talking to girls normally without having any sort of a feeling or like an inhibited feeling within me. Growing up, we did interact quite a bit in class because our school was a co-ed school, but then going out with girls was something that was unheard of when I was maybe in 5th grade, 6th grade, when my sisters were about in their later teens. But then as I grew up and when I became a teenager, the rules were a lot more relaxed. Even my parents were understanding about it. They trusted us, and we went out to movies as a big group with guys, girls, and mixed in. It was a lot better. But then here, I did not see a semblance of inhibition, which is I would say healthy. There might be people out there who might misuse it, but they would be a minority, and we should just stay away from those guys. That's about it. But overall, I think it's a very healthy system or practice. that brings me to the end of my talk. Hope it wasn't too long. Like I said in the start, I would just, I mean, if you're taking anything home from today about India, take home this. India is a very peaceful country. No country is perfect. We are trying to get better, and I think now we are the seventh fastest growing nation in the world. Our GDP is like the seventh in the world among the rising nations, and in Asia we are in close contest with China to gain the top spot in both population and productivity. And overall, I think it's an awesome place to be. It's very cheap to live there. Life is, I would say, much less complicated.